Serious, people who have been guests on reality shows such as remodeling, weight loss, porn shows, what really went on? My family won a kitchen makeover from the Martha Stewart show. They said they sent us on vacation for the last week of construction, but in reality we stayed home and ate in our basement the whole time. They filmed us driving up the street, had us change our shirts, and then filmed us getting back from the airport. Can't complain though, the kitchen was nice. This one made me chuckle. When I see shows that send families away for a nice little vacation before the reveal, I never doubted it before. I went on a show called The Year of Making Love, where we filled in an exam to scientifically match us up with our ideal partner. It studied our likes, dislikes, and what we looked for in a partner. We all had to drive up to Birmingham or someplace, and there was 1,000 people, 500 women, 500 men, split into genders. We sat on each side of a hall, when numbers would be called up and a man and woman would walk onto a stage, meet and walk off down the aisle. My one didn't show up. Oh god. I was on Homes in the second season. We had our weird cement balls floor replaced with granite. The crew were very nice and almost everything was authentic with 2 exceptions. Work took about 2.5 weeks and they presented it as being a 2-day job, and Holmes didn't do much work on our place. Not for lack of ability but simply because he was busy as heck. His crew were great and he chipped in and led where he could. We paid for materials but the labor was free. I was on What Not to Wear, AMA. I will say the hours were really long and they don't make you throw everything away. Also, Clinton Kelly was one of the nicest people I have ever met. Went above and beyond to help me get clothes that worked, even staying on off camera at the 15th hour of a day to get the right pants. Stacy was nice too. The weirdest things were the up close reshoots. If you pointed at anything while being filmed, they'd come in afterward and do an up close of your hand doing the motion. We learned towards the end to just stop pointing. This was my dad's favorite show, and every time it was what he would say, see, it's not about fashion, it's about confidence. I was on American Ninja Warrior. All in all, it's legit. The crowd reactions are often from different runs times, the crowd noise may be doctored here and there, the order of the runs may be changed, and the commentary may be redubbed, but that's all minor TV stuff that's expected. Everyone that worked on the show was incredibly nice. It's clearly a TV show more than a pure athletic competition, but that doesn't detract from it in any way. In my opinion, 10/10 would keep watching. The crowd reactions are often from different runs times, the crowd noise may be doctored here and there, yeah, that stands out like a sore thumb. They'll have wild cheering going in the background, but you can see the crowd in the shot and everyone is just sitting there. Honestly hard to unsee once you notice it. My high school was on a couple of episodes of MTV Made. The girl wanted to become more popular and the prom queen. MTV put on a crapload of different events in her name to encourage us to vote for her. What MTV didn't show was that the reason she was unpopular wasn't because she was overweight or in the band or anything, though both were true. She was unpopular because she was a giant bee, like insanely rude and bitchy. Needless to say, she did not win prom queen. To their credit, the show didn't try to reshoot it to make it look like she won or anything. I was on Judge Judy back in 2010. Our case was real and handpicked by the production team. We had to pull the case from real court in order to go on her show. The decision of who wins and loses is made up before you even walk into the courtroom set. The audience is all actors paid to sit there. Judge was wearing jeans and slippers under her robe. Also, she's incredibly quiet in real life. As in, I had to really strain to hear her. All in all, I got a paid 3-day vacation to LA and stayed in a decent hotel. I also got paid to be on the show, and when I lost the show paid the other guy for me. Pretty amazing, really. I got to participate in a very limited way in Extreme Makeover Home Edition. The one thing that I learned was how little actual useful work the stars do in terms of the building. I am sure it will be disappointing and not at all surprising to hear that Antiques Roadshow is pretty much like it looks. Our dusty crap was not selected for a special segment, but we did have our items appraised. They filmed the segments right out in the middle of where everyone is lined up waiting, so you get to see it unfold. The one thing that they don't show is how much research the appraisers do. I mean, Sometimes they'll say on TV I did some research or I consulted with colleagues, but I think most times a viewer might come away with the impression that the appraisers clap eyes on a piece and immediately understand its significance. But generally they have a laptop and some reference books to turn to, as well as memberships on the fine arts auction sites which show prices realized in previous sales. Also, I was a volunteer on a short-lived makeover show called School Pride where they renovated public schools. I worked several days nights at the Detroit area school that they made over. I don't know if it was because the show was new or what, but it did not seem very organized and a lot of the student volunteers on site didn't have enough to do because no one had a plan for them. I think they must have made a monster effort in the last few days. When the segment aired, they showed some very industrious looking work sessions and those weren't going on at all when I was there. Nice people, though. I am not sure the producer on site ever got much sleep. Did the home makeover show when it was in Philly. The neighbors make out great. Some of the neighbors were sent away on trips too so we could take over their yards for storage and setting up a cabinet shop. They also received free furniture, and the surrounding neighborhood can go to the hospitality area and eat some free food. But as others have stated, the construction is horrible. They use leaf blowers and hair dryers to get the joint compound to dry faster. After the show aired, the bed that could lower into the floor was permanent disabled because someone could get crushed under it. House was robbed a week after the show aired and the family ended up moving 5 years later, which I heard is the amount of time you agree to not sell the house as a condition of being on the show. I was on a Canadian show called Trading Places. My wife, our 2 kids, and I swapped lives with another family on the other side of Canada for a week. It was actually a pretty cool experience. The producers set up a number of activities with the idea of creating watchable TV, but in the end everything was pretty authentic. For one activity I was entered into a cyclocross race and the idea was that I was to only do 1 or 2 laps, just enough to grab some footage. I actually kept going, finished the race, and beat 2 of the other racers. The other family is absolutely awesome. After the show we met up and have actually stayed in touch ever since. They even came for a visit last summer. The show was back in 2002, so this was the early days of reality TV. I am sure it's a lot more scripted now. Late to the party here, but I have a relevant story. I live near Detroit and had an old ozone generating air purifier called a Homozone for sale on Craigslist that I had picked up at a garage sale because it looked cool. I got a call from a production company in California that asked if I would be interested in appearing on hardcore porn. The shop is only a few miles from my house. For a chance to sell my item, they offered me $50 for my appearance and I could keep any money that was offered by the shop. I decided to accept, so they gave me a date and time to show up. The place was packed because they shoot the whole season in a couple days then fly back to California. First I did a brief interview with the camera outside the shop about what I was bringing and how much I wanted for it. Then I was ushered inside where they took my item and told me to wait until I was called up. After browsing for a while, I was called up by one of the assistants and they brought me to the counter where the main guy Gold, with the ponytail, was standing. We talked for a bit and he asked me about where I was from and explained how the bartering would work. Once the introductions were out of the way, the cameras go on and he put on his TV character. He seemed like a real nice guy when we were talking, but a little sleazy when in character. Mainly the bartering process consisted of him making gay jokes about the name of my purifier and insinuating that I may be a homosexual. He made me an offer for $5 and I turned it down, then went on my way with the $50 from the production company. I don't have cable, so I have never watched the show, but my parents watch it and have not seen me on it yet. You know what? I think I remember seeing some sort of ozone thing on the show once. It must have been you, surely. I worked on one of the final Extreme Home Makeover episodes, the 7 and 7 episode where we built 7 houses in 7 days in Joplin, MO, after a huge tornado wiped out a lot of the city. The construction crews were all run by local general contractors and their teams donating their own time, which was really awesome. None of the hosts did any of the real work, they just did a few things for cameras. Ty Pennington was a huge D-bag and diva. He only came out of his lavish tour bus for a few minutes at a time to shoot his scenes. The week of the shoot he went and got belligerent drunk at a bar in town and made an ass of himself. Oh yeah, and the house I was working on was framed with 8D nails. I wasn't part of the framing crew. Inspector never said anything. 8D nails are about an inch or two too short to be proper for framing houses. They are 2 and 1/2 inches. Not usually not too much of an issue unless it could get hit by a tornado. Oh, in all seriousness, a 2x4 is an inch and a half thick, meaning you could pull out a board fastened with a 8D with your hands. I was on the old MTV show Yo Mama. Jokers keep a piece of paper with the jokes on it in their pocket and they pull it out before each line and memorize the line. The background group had to rehearse several times for the applause and cheers. That show was so stupid that Yo Mama was the only person who watched it. I was a contestant on Survivor, Pearl Islands. For the most part nothing is really scripted, although obviously it's cut way out of order for dramatic effect. I learned you can always tell by the pimples that appear and disappear on contestants from scene to scene. Some people are surprised that we were provided toilet paper and tampons plus a spot to crap and throw away the paper. Which was good because most people had to get up to blast a diarrhea dump at least 3 times a day from eating rice cooked in stagnant filth water. No matter how much they boiled that water it still tasted earthy and had grains of dirt in it. I was on Made, an MTV show about turning nerds into pickup artists, charming people, whatever term suits your fancy. Well, technically, rather I was at a party being hosted for the main star of the show. My family and I happened to be vacationing at the Atlantis Resort in Nassau, an island in the Bahamas, when we heard about MTV hosting this party, and 15-year-old me figured it would be fun to go. As I walked through the entrance to the party I saw a pretty girl on a seat in the corner. I asked her what she was doing and she said something along the lines of, "They asked me to wait here." From being at the party and later watching on TV, I learned that this was the girl that the star of the show got to go on a date with. In other words, MTV spoon-fed a date to a guy on a show about how to get to date. I can't blame the girl for agreeing to it. She got to be on TV and all she had to do was go to a nice dinner by the dolphin enclosure with a fat nerd. Not the most exciting thing in the world, but confirmed to me that, yes, reality TV is as fixed as everyone believes. I was a cast alternate for Fox's Utopia. What that basically meant is that I had to be constantly ready to drop everything and join the show to replace a voted out cast member. Here's what I can tell you. The show was pitched to me as a survival show. They wanted to know all my skills and how I would handle dangerous situations. The show, in actuality, was all about getting good looking people naked at the man-made, fully stocked lake. The cast had electricity by day 3. I would receive phone calls asking me if I've been keeping up with the action and what my feelings were. Knowing full well that they wanted drama, I'd lash out at nearly everyone on the show. They asked me if I could design their e-commerce site better. Yes, this was a survival show, but the group had a freaking e-commerce site to make money. The best thing I got out of the ordeal was a paid vacation to Los Angeles for a week. Got to meet a bunch of wackus and pompous LA executives. Got to meet the guy who created the voice and all that crap. It's 100% as sleazy as you'd expect. My old manager used to own the storage facility that was on one of the really early episodes of Storage Wars. The producers come onto the facility, buy out the units, then proceed to plant valuables in some of them and weird creepy garbage in others. None of the lucky finds these weirdos get on the show are found by chance. They are all plants. What's sad is people think these sudden storage jackpots are real and are trying the real deal, usually shelling out hundreds of dollars for a unit that only has a moldy mattress and crusty 80s P magazines. Oh no, you've been visited by the centipede. The centipede appears only once every 3.8 trillion years. Like this video in 2.1 seconds or forever be uncomfortable. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.